Welcome everybody here to the start of the playoffs for the International 5 qualifiers for the Chinese region. I'm here with the smartest people in the world to get us underway for the panel. That's going to be terrific.
The guy in my head just said you are, so I guess that means he's confirming we're the smartest people in the world. I wasn't going to back it up.
Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. All right, guys. Let's talk about the group stage before we start off, because this is just our pre-show. We're not going to get into the official game just yet. But let's actually, I hope we can bring up Group A, because that's the first one I'd like to have a look at, because that was probably the tightest of the groups. In fact, here it is right there. So Ehome and Energy Pacemaker being the two that get through into the playoffs, but it was really tight.
Yeah, I think a lot of people had Ehome as their favorite to win the Chinese qualifier just as a whole with the kind of roster they've got, but they had draws against Tongfu Wenzhou as well as Newbie Young and didn't actually look that dominant even in some of their victories. So I think coming into the playoffs, Ehome maybe not looking as strong and sturdy as a lot of people expected.
Yeah, what about Energy Pacemaker? Like Energy Pacemaker, I know we were kind of looking at them as, we labeled them as the Power Rangers, what Power Rangers is to Europe, they are to China. And they really play some fantastic Dota, but are they going to be able to survive during the playoffs?
Oh, I think they will. I think this this patch is a lot about the draft. And I really like the way that Energy Pacemaker run their lineups most of the time, It's a lot of high aggression stuff, so I think against any team, if you're playing that Power Ranger style as you compared them to earlier, it can take games off anyone. Doesn't matter who they are.
Mm-hmm. Let's spare a moment for the three teams which were knocked out. Now, Newbie Young, Tongfu Wenzhou, and Old Boys. For me, actually seeing Old Boys in the third position is a slight surprise after a couple of the games we cast. But Lumi, you're a kid of old times.
Yeah. Well, what happened to them? It's past their time, basically. Too old.
How about too old? They were too casual. I feel like they were just too casual more than anything.
I feel like the way they played, I had an opportunity to cast them yesterday, Old Boys versus Wenzhou, and I loved the way they played the game. Like, they took Spirit Breaker support, Mirana support with Undying, played by 820, and they ran at people. It was amazing to watch. And the thing is, they were playing against Wenzhou, and they had a super standard like Rubik AA. We've been seeing that a lot. They ran this tri-lane. They got totally dismantled. I don't think they're too old. I think they were just trying to have fun.
Yes, I think that's exactly. This is a team who came to the qualifiers to say, let's just pick some fun stuff. And I mean, these guys they're streaming like full time. They're not worried about making, as much as there's a lot of prestige in making TI, I think they know they're not going to make top 5, top 8 at TI. So even if they squeaked into the playoffs, they're probably thinking, we don't really have a chance. Let's just have some fun and help get our brand. It's brand. It's exposure for them. It's not actually about winning.
There's fun and then there's throw. We cast the game together. It was Old Boys going up against Newbie Young.
Oh, it was you and Basket.
It was me and Basket.
I watched a bit of the game.
And it was this crazy thing. We were trying to understand what they were doing because it was just they took a fight and logic didn't matter. They just kept running at them. It didn't matter.
But that's what I mean. That's what they wanted to do. If you watched the game yesterday, they had Spirit Breakers support Mirana. They never stopped fighting. It was like 50 kills in a 20-minute game. It was unbelievable.
Yep. So they're doing a fan service. This is the way we
I think it's the only reason you
Why
pick.
not?
I mean, support Mirana. Who picks or plays that? That
I've
is like
never
a
even
forgotten
seen it.
hero. Yeah.
Well, outside of European teams. I mean, they do it every once in a while, but it was pretty wild. Fun to watch.
Well, poor Old Boys. They are out. Hopefully we can bring the group stage back up again because I want to look at probably one of the big teams, of course, the team we're going to be seeing playing in our first game today. And that's actually Cdeck. Cdeck being the only team for the two regions so far that have come through completely undefeated. Not a single game lost, no draws. It's a 4 straight win, maximum 12 points out of the groups. Do they have what it takes to win the entire thing?
They looked really strong to me. Even in one of the Wings games yesterday, they were quite a bit behind. I believe it was Gamer Garter was playing Bounty Hunter, and they still managed to pull it back, even in some pretty adverse circumstances. So I think they're looking great.
I think, to me, they're like almost a shoo-in for top 2 at least. It's going to be a tough contest between them and Ehome, first in the winner bracket finals and a likely grand finals matchup. I think Energy Pacemaker is the big team that sticks out to me in the playoffs as a team who has their work cut out for them especially, but I think between Cdeck and Ehome, that's going to be kind of your two big dogs coming into the playoffs.
I don't think Cdeck will, let's say they win this qualifier, they move to TI. I don't think they will do very well there because against top teams that don't make many mistakes, Cdeck would not do well. They really feed off opponents' mistake. I think Wings made some drastic mistakes in both the late game. But if you do make mistakes against this team, they know where to hit you and hit you hard. I think who was playing the PL yesterday for Cdeck, but I think it was
aggressive.
Aggressive, sorry.
Split second, I need a TP in. And that's something that you see from some of the top carry players of the West. I think RTZ does it a lot, right? You TP in, and then you buy something in their base, and you go for the drone race. Like, I'm talking about that split second decision, and Cdeck has it. So we were saying that Ehome looks a bit shaky, and just talking a bit about this particular matchup, Ehome will make mistakes, and Cdeck will capitalize on those mistakes. So to answer your question, yes, I think Cdeck could win the whole thing because they're looking really strong.
Well, let's actually talk about Wings because you brought them up quickly too. Wings, a team which I'm fairly certain has destroyed almost everyone's predictions inside the compendium because they knocked down HGT. Like, we knew HGT was going to tilt a little bit, but what are we looking back? Like, when we look at Wings, how did they get themselves into the second position?
They could have been the first position because the games that they lost against Cdeck were both very, very, very close. So, I mean, if things gone a little bit better, we'll be seeing a different matchup. But
was
Wings...
Was it that close, though, those games? Because the decisions they made in the late game, like you mentioned Wings, I think it was XTD playing carry in both of those games, correct?
Yeah, at
And,
least
like,
in game 2, they had, like, LD and I were sitting here saying, all right, they're going to win this 100, or I think Owen and I were sitting here, it's like, okay, they were winning this 100% of the time. There's really no way they should lose this.
Yeah.
And Dota happened, so...
Dota happened.
Yeah, I think Wings... I mean, if they have a good day, I think they could definitely make the run as well. But they need to have that good day.
And they've got some experienced players. They've done pretty well in past TI qualifiers with XDD, who used to play in Rising Stars, and even Super as well, who's another really strong support player. So I think people underestimate them coming into the group stages, but that's not going to happen in the playoffs. And that's where it's going to be a lot trickier when teams can now prepare for them a bit more, since they maybe were underlooked. As an open qualifier team, that's the really impressive thing with Wings, is they come out of the open qualifiers, and they're still here in the playoffs.
Yeah, I was a really big fan of the early game as well. It's just like Lumi said, late game decision making, and it was really only one person, so I can't really blame the entire team for that. But as long as they avoid making those really simple mistakes, I think they'll be a top contender as well.
Wings was supposed to be an original invite, right? And then they changed their roster, so they got knocked to the open qualifier. Is that what happened?
I don't remember.
They were never included in the invites initially. That only happened in America, where there was some changes and tweaks. But they did have a roster change quite shortly before the qualifier. So
all right.
Let's actually bring up the playoffs because we're getting into the crunch of it all right now. So this is where it all ends. So you need 2 teams. We only need 2 teams to go to TI. It's a very simple bracket, best of 3 for the winners bracket, as well as the lower bracket round 1 and lower bracket final. And then the grand finals when we decide who goes directly into the main event and who goes into the wildcard spot. But you do punch a ticket for Seattle if you can get into that grand final. I kind of want to start with the game we're not going to do first. Energy Pacemaker versus Wings. Now, when we talk about like Wings playing well, Energy Pacemaker being wonderful shots, who do we think's got the advantage in this series?
I personally feel Wings have been a bit more they're on a roll. They have a ton of momentum. They've come out of the open qualifiers. They did ridiculously well. They knocked out HDT, one of the big favorites over in Group B from the China qualifiers. So to me, I think Wings come in as maybe at least slight favorites to the series.
Yeah, I would say so as well. I mean, the only series they dropped was the Cdeck, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that was the team who didn't lose to anybody. So I guess if anyone would take it, I would have to agree. I think it will be Wings.
Yeah.
Definitely Wings. I'm actually looking forward to Wings versus Cdeck or Ehome. I think Wings will actually make it to the finals. So
really,
this is not a team to sleep on. Again, they lost their matches against Cdeck, but they look hella good losing it.
I do feel like Ehome are going to step up. To me, Ehome's a team who's going to step it up now they're in the playoffs. They look shaky. They lost a game against Newbie Young, who they should never have lost a game against. It was a super clowny game at that. They lost a game against, Tongfu Wangzhou as well. That was their opening best of 2 as well. But Ehome's a team, you put them in playoffs, you put them in clutch matches. Best of 5. I don't see Ehome losing a best of 5 to any of these 3 teams.
I know we're talking about this too, and we're walking back to the hotel yesterday, and it was this whole, well, Ehome now, the group stage is over, and they're going to directly prepare for each game and set up their strats before they actually come in. So it's going to give them a little bit more stability now going into a double elim playoff. Like that's nice, and they've got a second chance.
Yeah, I mean, you got RTK. This guy got second place last TI. He's been top 4, top 5, I think, back at TI2 with Team DK. They've got such great leadership and even just individually talented players. I think that's something that RTK occasionally gets criticism for. Sometimes his decision making's off, but overall, this is to me without a doubt the strongest team in the playoffs, even though they didn't go undefeated like Cdeck did.
I definitely agree with a lot of what you're saying too. I think they have like a nice balance between the old boys who have that kind of experience, but they're not like, we're not going to YOLO every single game and just do whatever we want. So they can definitely play a little bit more reserved, and like you said, plenty of time to study drafts and prepare. So yeah, I agree.
All right. Just before we wrap this up, because I know the game is actually starting to look like it's going to happen, and we're going to have a short break before we start this. Was there any big moments for you guys coming out from the qualifiers that you really enjoyed? I know it's a random question. I didn't prepare you for this one, but was there one moment you really enjoyed?
The one moment I didn't enjoy, but that meant the most to me, was ZSMJ getting knocked out again. Like, this guy, he's a legend. He, to me, is one of the most famous Dota players of all time. He's up there at least in the top 5, and year after year in TI qualifiers, his teams have just disappointed, kind of. They've choke, gone on tilt, whatever it may be, and it's kind of sad for me seeing him. There was even a shot of him in the booth after they lost, and he's obviously very upset, kind of crying, and that to me was probably the toughest moment about the Chinese qualifiers.
I'm really excited about the fact that we see teams like Wings and Energy Pacemaker even in the playoffs in the first place, right? I mean, because you're getting to a point now where Dota has been established for a very long time, like over 10 years even, right? If you go back to the older iterations of the game. And you're still seeing teams that may be comprised of older players, but there's still new people coming into the scene all the time, and they can play at a top level. So that, to me, is exciting.
Yeah, for me, the moments are it's Chinese Dota, and it's going to be long games, because that's what we see in day 1, day 2, right? We're hitting 60, 70 minutes. And that's what I live for.
You love long games.
I love like 80-minute, 90-minute games, best of 3, best of 5.
Is it the end game decisions that just get you off, Lumi?
Yeah, I mean, yesterday we saw there's somebody didn't get TP. Like, that's mistake number 1 that you learn in Dota 101. Still happens at the best levels.
There are reasons to not have a TP like game.
Yes.
Though. Like you have to play around it, but I think you can justify not having a TP.
There's not reason for Spectre have face boots 60 minutes in game with like 6K gold in the bank. Like,
I agree there.
Well, that's when people go on tilt and crazy things happen. So, yeah, moments like this will happen today. I'm pretty sure.
We'll see if they do. We're not going to talk about our winners bracket final yet because we're going to come back after this short break with that. So definitely stay tuned, and we'll see you back here in just a couple of minutes.
can stay right here, we will play until somehow you can find a slightly different frame of mind. Right here in my arms, away from all harm, you'll be safe from all the flares, although I know you don't care. Take a deeper breath and give it time. You can walk the path among the lines with your shattered frame of mind. Or instead you could always stay. We can wait right here and play until somehow you can find a slightly better frame of mind.
Welcome back, everybody, here to the winners bracket final of the International 5 China qualifiers. It's Ehome going up against Cdeck, the top two from each of the groups. Before we get into the game, we're going to break apart the teams, and to do that, I'm joined by Syndra now on my side, and we've got Gods as well as Draskell, the full panel.
We just kicked off the guy with the worst shirt. That's all we did.
Yeah.
Thank you. For once, it's not me. Yes.
But you managed to solve that problem. You actually went shopping today to find some stuff.
Yeah, I found 4 new shirts yesterday. I was really happy.
Yeah.
That's the best day of my life.
Wonderful.
Zairi's been talking about taking you shopping for new clothes for months, so he was, I think, pretty happy it finally happened.
It was good. We managed.
Nice.
Wonderful. Let's talk about our teams, guys. So we'll see which team profile we actually have to come up first. But we do have the top 2 teams coming out from each of the groups. And the first one is, in fact, going to be Ehome. Probably the team which I think we decided during our pre-show was I don't want to say the underdog, but they're definitely coming in behind Cdeck as far as favorites for this game.
I mean, even if they're the underdog, they still have ridiculous star power, right? You have ROTK, LANM, DDC. These guys have been in the scene forever. Like, I don't think I've ever seen like a TI without at least one of, or if not all of these players contributing to it. So, I mean, to say that they're an underdog is kind of crazy, right?
Yeah, it's kind of weird too, because I know, Gods, you're a massive fan of CTY as far as that mid-solo. What was your, mechanically, he's one of the best mids in the world, you said during one of our broadcasts together. How can you lose with a player like CTY?
Decision making. That's where mid to late game decision making. That's where sometimes he can be a bit shaky. But I think it's great because you've got the mix of old as well as young on this team. You have those veterans. This guy here we're looking at, Lam, is played at past TIs. He's had the track record playing on big name teams. That along with the 2 young players who are CTY playing mid and then Yang on the carry role. It's a nice formula that's been proven to work where you bring in some young talents, put them on a kind of key role, a kind of playmaking type role, either mid, carry, and it fits really nicely around the kind of experienced veterans playing like your off lane or your support roles.
Yeah, indeed. I'm definitely a fan of this team. I would like to see them do well, but I mean, Cdeck, absolute monsters, let's be honest.
Yeah. No, when a team doesn't drop a single game for the entire qualifier, like, you know something is going right there. Even if you have a couple of close games, that might happen, but you went through an entire 4-2 game series and not a single loss.
That's impressive to say the least.
And that's going to be a lot of confidence coming in because, like Group B, like Cdeck were stretch miles above everybody else. But Group A was really, really tight. Like, there wasn't much gap in between at all. So Ehome, like, I don't know how much confidence they're going to have. I know we were also talking about the fact, like, they can at least prepare for this best of 3, but is preparation going to be enough against Cdeck?
I don't know. I feel like Cdeck played some, like, the styles they played in the games were fairly similar, but it wasn't like a one-trick pony kind of team that just did the same thing over and over. They're really good at, in comparison to a lot of the other teams, they seemed really good at getting objectives. I feel like that was one of the things that separated them, was that they took fights and they took towers really early, and they realized at what parts of the game they were able to force through and get some sort of collateral damage out of a good fight. So from my perspective, I think you definitely don't give them Drow at all.
Yes.
Even without the Visage, I think it's one of the heroes that they play the best around. The Witch Doctor, I think, was a key hero as well. In one of our series we cast earlier with both Q and Garter actually played it. They played a game each, and both of them outstanding players on that hero. And they're all about the sustain, actually, when you think about it. They played, I can't remember if I cast 4 or 2 games of them, but I felt like in every single game they had some sort of sustain fights and to keep pushing. So maybe you try to ban against that. I'm not sure.
I mean, that's a pretty wide hero pool to ban against, right?
Yeah.
When you're also contemplating banning Drow, any hero with a sustain, it's a pretty wide amount of heroes, right?
Because then you're going to throw in the other combinations which have been used as well. Like, you're going to look towards the Undying. Where's that Wisp going to come into play as well? Like,
I'm not sure about Undying, actually. I mean, I've seen people run it, but I'm not actually sold on its power. I think it's one of those heroes that you actually want to wait a little bit farther on into the draft, maybe not prioritize it as highly as some teams do. Because a lot of the time, I think that's why you see the prevalence of Drow a lot of the time, just to be able to win your lane so hard. In this patch, rubber banding obviously not as severe, so when you do this snowball type where you take all the towers, like Sin was saying, you just end up in a really strong position that's hard to come back from.
Yeah. On the topic of Drow, there was even a game yesterday where they first picked the Drow, and they could have gone Visage second, but they said, nope, we want Viper. We don't care about the Drow Visage. I think Drow is a hero that Ehome are not going to be giving them, at least maybe in one of the 3 games they try and mix things up if they need to kind of take a different direction with their draft because they lose game 1, let's say, but I think the initial plan is going to be ban out the Drow Ranger for sure.
well, let's have a look because would you believe actually no. Before we do that, let's actually have a look at the Cdeck players.
Yeah, so as you can see there, actually for both Q and Garter, Witch Doctor, one of the most played heroes, aggressive, generally tends to play the Drow for them. Jugger, interesting to see a carry player like aggressive also have Axe in his repertoire of most played heroes. That's pretty unusual. Shiki, very, very standard mid heroes here, nothing out of the ordinary, and you do see the Undying for Garter as well, by the way. So they have been playing it. I think I saw 1 or 2 games where Cdeck had Undying, and I think one of them actually got really close, and they kind of got. I think they won that game because of the clockwork more than anything toward the end. But Undying, obviously, an integral part of their early game that they do so well in. So.
Well, I'm really happy with every single hero you guys are talking about because I can see the draft happening on the screen. So let's actually go into that now, and we'll see the fact that, would you believe, Ehome ban out the Drow Ranger in the early stages, and the Clockwork, which Cinder was mentioning. Very early pickup here for Ehome.
Yeah, interesting that they first picked the Shaker over everything. They're still a Gyro, they're still Shadow Fiend, and I guess for Cdeck, they just want one of them. And I guess what they're discussing right now is which one is best against Clock AA. I would say Gyro is
They don't really
probably
play
the best call.
Gyrocopter. From the games I've seen,
They didn't
a
play it
lot
at
of the
all?
teams, they have not been playing Gyrocopter. It's been occasionally banned out in the second stage, but the teams have not been prioritizing. With Cdeck, they have been prioritizing Earthshaker. Gada, it's kind of his signature hero, I'd say, almost, and something that teams are actually first stage banning against him during the previous
I think they
stage.
just ban Gyro anyway, I guess, if you're Cdeck, right? Not give it to Ehome?
I think they might give it away. They've beaten it every single time.
Oh,
I
really?
Think, I think they generally traded Gyro for something else. They beat HGG's Gyro. They beat, I want to say one more game at least from another team. They also beat a Gyro pretty easily, actually. I think maybe they actually gave it to HGG twice and beat it both times, now that I think about it.
Interesting. Have they ever had the Clock and Gyro combination, though, on one team? Because I feel like that one in particular is especially strong. Like, the synergy of the two, I think, is completely insane. And even after banning PL from Ehome, it makes Gyro, I think, even a stronger pick in this game.
Yeah.
I think Luminous is going to get his wish as far as the length of these games. Because with both of the lines for the first 2 pickups, I'm seeing, like, I suppose it's also something we've been seeing throughout most of the Chinese qualifier. It's so difficult to go high ground. Like, Ehome tried to solve this problem by getting, like, an off-lane Pugner from ROTK, and then just forcing down lanes. I think that was actually one of the first games that Ehome played here on the main stream. But I'm actually wondering just how long this game will go when you have heroes like ES and SF to defend.
I think Ehome's a team who'll be happy to play for the late game, especially. If anyone's going to be trying to play more early mid-game push and kind of 5-man death ball, it's probably going to be Cdeck around like a Shadow Fiend mech timing. They played a core carry Lashrak even throughout some of their games, so every now and and especially when they get the Joe Ranger, which, as we kind of said a few times, is unlikely to be the case. But I think Cdeck are much more kind of mid-game push-oriented. Syndrome mentioned they're really good at taking objectives, knowing when they can take them, and that's something which I think they'll not let Ehome just sit back and farm up their core late-game items and take it to a really comfortable late-game stage, because that's where players like Lamb, ROTK can really shine with their decision-making.
And that's a big boon of getting Shadow Fiend like this, is that you have a natural mech carrier, basically. We've seen the games from Cdeck where they get the Shadow Fiend mech and they just push towers. They just really go in for it pretty much right away. They build a lineup around using the mech very well, so they generally draft a high amount of team fight. At least one hero that is good at taking towers. I wouldn't be surprised to see them getting something like Shadow Shaman. I do believe they played at least once.
If you're talking about Ehome?
No, Cdeck as well.
Okay.
Cdeck, I think so. But
Ehome
definitely played it, yeah. But I'm not sure about the Shadow Shaman Shaker combo, though. That's a pretty weak support duo. Although Ehome's isn't amazing either. It's really good for aggressive tri lanes, Rubik AA. And to an extent can roam the Shadow Fiend. But if it comes to the safe lane protection, there are actually quite a few heroes that can stand against this, because you have telekinesis and that's it. If you have like a blink or any sort of movement speed burst or something, you just get away from AA. So I don't know. We might see Cdeck go for something like Darkseer for that reason. I wouldn't be too surprised.
I think it's good for punish. I also feel like the Witch Doctor Shaker is exceptionally weak against Clockwork AA in the mid game. Like obviously
Yes.
not early. Like the combination is not so great. Neither of those heroes can even get an animation off between the Clockwork, and for now they don't have any way of stopping the clock. So I'm a little bit concerned for Cdeck right now how they're going to deal with that.
I think they're going to get Jugger for aggressive, actually. He's good against Ehome's heroes, in my opinion. It can get a little bit scary if you get knocked out by the cogs and you run out of mana, but he destroys Clockwork in lane if he has any sort of meaningful support. That could like compensate for the lack of like this duo, like you said, doesn't punish Clock that well, but it can compensate for that. And a hero like AA just gets completely destroyed by Jugger. Rubik is a free killer as well, more or less. But now there's a little bit of a problem. This Storm they have not accounted for at all, so that might change their approach a little bit.
I think this makes Jugger a little bit weaker. Not like massively weak, because it's still very good, like you said, against 3 of the heroes on Ehome. And I still think that Shadow Fiend plus Jugger Storm's going to have a hard time dealing with both when you have Shaker stun.
And if the Cdeck timing is as usual, where they want to start pushing towers, let's say between minute 10 and 15, Storm is really not good yet then. He gets good after he gets his Orchid and maybe half a Bloodstone, or vice versa, like whatever order you build your items in, or if you don't get Orchid at all. You can't really just ball lightning in and pick out targets at minute 10. You can at minute 20. When you have a little bit more to play around with. So maybe Cdeck just go all in for the timing game, and it is actually a really big risk, I would say, to pick Jugger now, but they've got to be feeling confident, right?
I would think so. I think Jugger's still okay. The one concern I have for Cdeck right now, outside of just the Clockwork, is during the mid game, like you have some sustain heroes. If you pick Jug as your Cdeck, you do have another one in the healing ward, and then you'll also have Voodoo Restoration. But I think the support levels for Ehome could be a big problem. For instance, they have a very strong making of a tri-lane already. And if that AA and Rubik get ahead, they're going to be able to steal Fissure. They're going to be able to steal Witch Doctor Ward as well. Not really that difficult to do in fights. And if you have that AA blast, it can be a real detriment to going high ground.
Witch Doctor Ward is difficult to steal.
Yeah, because you can toggle Voodoo
You can
Restoration.
actually toggle heal while you cast
Yeah.
Ward.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Which I actually don't know if that's intended.
I don't
to be
think it
honest.
is. I don't think toggleable spells are supposed to be able to be stolen in the first place, right?
Well, since it has a start mana cost, I think that's fine. But it's a little counterintuitive that you can toggle a channeling spell or toggle a spell while you're using a channeling spell.
Yeah, you're only supposed to be able to use invisibility, more or less, right? Like Shadow Blades and such.
Yeah, I guess it just falls into the same category. I don't know.
That's weird.
It's a little counterintuitive, but once you've seen it played, you just know that it's actually like the timing window that Rubik has. If the Witch Doctor literally just presses his ward and immediately presses Voodoo Restoration, it's like you've got a tenth of a second.
It's like trying to steal Doom, basically, against the Doom Who Scorcher.
It's even harder. Oh, yeah. I guess that's comparable. Yeah, you're right.
Oh, you got your Juggernaut. They had the confidence for it.
Yeah, I think it's a good pick. Yeah, they're going to ban the Shadow Shaman Ehome, so I'm fairly sure that they have run this at least once with their Jugger and Witch Doctor. Lifesteal are going to be removed. No bombs for Ehome. I think it would have been a really good pick for them too.
Yeah,
I agree. The Juggernaut's kind of nice against Lifestealer, but all their other heroes just get eaten alive, and they have the vehicle to take him into the fight. We saw a Lifestealer played yesterday by Cdeck, where they ran it together with Clockwork as the vehicle. That's way less scary than a Storm. Like, Storm is super flexible, can jump in at any point to any, like, from anywhere to anywhere, whereas Clock has to find an angle first, he has to target, and then he even cogs in the Lifestealer, which can be good or bad, but this is just a way better setup for Lifestealer. So they get rid of it. I don't know what we're going to see last for Ehome. They definitely need a carry for Yang. What has he been playing, actually?
Played a
I've
couple
seen
games
a
of
few
Jug.
Yeah, he's
but
gone.
exactly, that's gone and taken. But yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, as far as this is where you're kind of looking at your backup options, because all of the main carries you'd like for him, the Lifesteal has been taken out. So
He needs someone. They need someone that can keep up with the Storm and the Clockwork at least.
Gyro's gone, PL's gone, Drow's gone. I feel like those are like the carries we've seen in this tournament, together with Jugger and the Shadow Fiend. I mean,
yeah,
they're going to need to pull out something a little bit unusual here almost. They're going to go for the Lycan. Interesting.
Okay.
That's kind of a... Is that a half a deny pick? Because Cdeck could have actually got that. That would have been really good.
you think with the Jug and Shadow Fiend, it almost looks too greedy, and I mean, it definitely complements their push, but I think it would have been very hard to fit in with the lanes. You're up against a Rubik AA, one of the scariest support duos, so...
I think they could have aggressive tri-laned them, actually.
Yeah, I actually agree with Sen as well.
Jugger Witch Doctor Shaker is a really scary lane, and Rubik does not deal well with this kind of lane because the target who they have to keep away is Jugger, and Rubik can't do it. If he gets fissured, you have a kill. So
Yeah, Cdeck's lane is very good all-inning, and that's what Ehome's tri-lane would be very weak against. So.
they might still do it, actually, I think, and pick a hero that's good one-on-one against Clock. They can shut down the Lycan very hard in lane. They're going to get Spirit Breaker last, so this makes me...
I think it's okay.
He's an okay matchup against Clock.
In
I
lane,
think that's
yeah.
like 50-50 more or less.
I think it's like you're obviously never going to be able to charge other lanes, which is kind of annoying if you get cog spammed, right? So you're not going to have that like early game kind of pressure. But I do think 1 versus 1, he's okay. Very high base armor, high damage. So yeah, it should be fine.
I'd be surprised the offensive trial just because the way they normally play the Earthshaker is he's very mobile on the map. He doesn't want to just be forced to stay in that on that side lane solo. He wants to be able to help out the mid lane and try and tip the scales into the Shadow Fiend's favor in the mid lane.
But the thing is, when you run an aggressive trial line on the Radiant, it's actually fairly easy to rotate, and he doesn't have to stay because I think Witch Doctor Juggernaut are fairly self-sustainable, right? As long as they don't die, they can just heal up with Voodoo Restoration and Ward. So I feel like there will be an opportunity or two for Shaker to move, and then the question is if Ehome can keep tabs of him, because of course, if you're playing an aggressive trial line, it's easier to identify when the Shaker is moving, so your timing window is smaller, but it is still possible, especially if you play it around the runes where you're going to go anyway and check them. So we'll see. I still think they're going to safe lane as well, like you said, but I would like to see an aggressive trial lane.
Well, let's find out as we'll get ourselves underway. We'll see Draskell and Gods again at the end of this game, and it's just now you and me, Synderen. Let's get ourselves into it. So you've got yourself your defensive lane. Also, Cdeck's not going to run for it. So they move the Spirit Breaker towards the off lane. So it looks like we've got a very, very standard kind of style.
Yeah, the good news for Ehome in that regard is that the hero they'll be farming in the safe lane, of course, is going to be the Lycan. And when you look at Cdeck's lineup, obviously magic damage is really weak against the Wolves. So the way they can deal with the Wolves is more or less only Juggernaut's attacks or Shadow Fiends. You can generally kite around the Spirit Breaker and be super annoying to the supports in the back line. Witch Doctor and Shaker do not deal with them that well. I guess Cask is okay, but then they go invis. So
yeah,
he can definitely with a good farm on Lycan, fast level 4 Wolves, fast Necro Book. I guess it's going to be the build for Yang, so they can fight better early. That might actually turn out really good for Ehome with this trade-off. But of course, Cdeck, they will be farming their safe lane. Juggernaut, he's going to get very quick. I'm assuming he's going to go for... Did he go face drums last time? Aggressive? I'm not sure.
Would you actually want to go face drums on the Lycan this time around?
No, on the Juggernaut.
On the Juggernaut.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, then it'll be face drums.
I think it just fits their playstyle.
Aggressive just builds for the earlier game fights, and he can't do that if he's going to go for like a later game item.
I don't know if he goes... I feel like still most of the time Juggernauts go phase, Mask of Madness, Yasha, but I don't see this as a good game for that kind of build. Because then you're aiming for late game.
If you can sit back and farm, then that's fine. But if you're looking to try and contest like Lycan when he goes in for Roshan, then you're going to need something a little bit earlier.
Yep.
All right, so actually Cdeck ended up switching up their lanes a little bit. So they're running a dual lane. So we got Juggernaut and Witch Doctor on the bottom lane, And then up towards the top, that's where the Earthshaker is there to babysit the SB. And he's more there as just a protection factor, as shout out to Perfect World.
Yeah, well, he also did the classic level 1 thing for Shaker, which is to Fissure the offlane. So the offlane gets into a way better position for XZ here from the start. Doing a pretty good job at trying to harass him away, but he's getting a Stout Shield proc on seemingly every single attack there, and doesn't really care too much with 5 base armor anyway. So he's going to have a good start. This is basically a level 2 in the first wave for Spirit Breaker. No, that got denied. So he's close to level 2. Pull from Lanham already happening. He's trying for the combo. He will get it as well. And XZ has skilled Greater Bash first, so if he gets caught, he actually can't get out. Needs to be a little careful here.
I'm interested to see how that mid matchup goes. With the Storm versus the SF, obviously the Storm's going to have the advantage early on when you can get that bottle so early on too, but the SF's got his now, so can use the Razor to try and manipulate the lane. But it seems to be the classic matchup of these qualifiers, the SF versus Storm.
Yeah, I think until SF gets a few souls, Storm leads the lane, and after that, you're basically both just spam farming with spells. Shadow Fiend has an opportunity to get a kill until Storm is level 6, and after that it's impossible. So the timing for Cdeck is probably to rotate in the Shaker when Shiki hits level 5 on the SF. And then if they block off the Storm nicely, that can set up 2, if not even 3 racers, and that is the way you get the kill. CTY, however, going to get the first rune. Bounty rune will be bottom. Ehome getting both of them. This goes to the Clockwork. That's level 3 for him. He's actually getting more than the Spirit Breaker, I think. Yeah, he's getting way more than the Spirit Breaker. Garter can't really keep him away on his own, and that's the problem with not having the Shaker down here from the start, is that RTK can really manipulate this lane, and there's just no kill setup really without the Fissure. That's what they needed for Aggressive to kill him.
Yeah. But right now, it looks like, well, the Fissure's not available. He's moving around inside the jungle from lane to lane. Wonder how long it's also going to be before Cdeck try and do something in this mid. You are running an SB, so if SB is not getting the levels on top, do you just try and charge into the mid lane up against the Storm Spirit, or do you keep trying to do this? Like, he's got Orb of Venom as well as this Stout Shield. Does he try and get up in the face of DDC, in fact, and force this Ancient Apparition away from him?
Well, it looks like that's the play right now.
Well, the play is to actually kill him off. Lanham can go for the telekinesis if he wants to, but he needs the cold feet to trigger it, and there it goes. Dragging him back with a semi-body block too. They're going to lock him in, and the supports potentially can find the kill, but the charge away. He'll get out to the trees, down to the secret shop, and that will keep the SB alive for now.
I'm really surprised he played that like that. I feel like he took like 300 damage he didn't need to by running south. When he got cold feeted on the spot, and they tossed him upward. So he could run like 200 or 300 range to the north, and the cold feet would end, and then he could just charge a lane. Or he could instantly have tried to charge, even just to the mid lane, and take almost no damage. I think he would easily escape the cold feet range with that. So, well, he's going to have to use a Salve and a Tango as a result. He still has a bit of regen remaining. But this is a good play from Ehome, actually. They pressure him first, so now he's going to be cautious, and then they
bottom
smoke.
lane. I think Clockwork's in a lot of trouble right now. Down very, very low. At the same time, Juggernaut's not too healthy. And it's going to be the mid lane, which potentially could be the first blood. CTY already going to start with that overload slow. Lanham coming up behind him. Telekinesis pick up and throw back. He'll get in range for the cold feed as well. And there it is. That will be the first kill, as we will see it frame by frame.
Yep. At least in that lag, you could see what was going on.
Yes.
That's kind of nice. Like, even though you didn't see the animations, you saw Shadow Fiend getting slowed twice. So 2 overloads with Remnant, and then, of course, just the lift with Chilling Touch. More than enough damage.
SB's getting nice and up and like.
Oh, he's got a haste rune.
Yeah. Looking for some kind of opening inside the dire jungle, or at least making sure the supports can't easily rotate out and help out it, like move to the next target and get momentum.
He's gonna try mid again. Shaker is there this time.
He's so far back. CTY.
He's under a ward. He was charging from the middle of the river. That's. Ehome are definitely going to be ready for this in this type of game, where when they know this Spirit Breaker is offlane, this ward that they have up is actually one of the best wards you can have, the one up there, because it's gonna see the charge path almost no matter what. No matter where he starts from, he will be crossing through that ward from the top lane. And oh boy, he might be in some trouble here. No mana.
Yeah, which means no charge. Lanham, though, actually, does he not have enough for a telekinesis?
He does.
He does?
I feel like he should have just used that and dealt whatever damage they could, but maybe wants to keep it for later in case there was a rotation for the tower, and...
They're letting it go.
Yeah.
They're not going to contest for the tier 1 tower.
This
And Lycan's getting so much money. Like, he's already got 38 CS on the safe lane. Now he's going to destroy the top tower. And this Vladimir is going to arrive very, very quickly, and probably also the Medallion of Courage not far behind it.
Yeah, if he wants that. I think the other Lycan game I've seen in this tournament, that Lycan did not get Medallion. He got Vlad's only and then into Book, I believe.
But it seems like this game's going to go a little bit longer, and Roshan's a little bit more critical for them.
Yeah.
Hence my mind goes to Medallion.
Yeah, there's not really any other hero that can get the Medallion for their team reliably. Like, you can get it on an AA or Rubik, but I don't really think they have the gold for it when it matters. So I guess it's a good pickup on Lycan. It is, of course, fairly expensive, right? It's like 1,200 gold you invest into that, which is about half of your Necro 1. So you are delaying your impact for all other purposes than Roshan, pretty much. Like, it's not like it's useless in fights. It's still good with your wolves, but generally a Necro Book is more powerful than Medallion for the fights. So, well, I guess he won't really have a problem regardless. He's getting so good farm. No one's contesting him. They haven't blocked any camps, so now they can start jungling the Lycan, safe lane the AA. Very classic when you draft these heroes together. Get the AA the level 6 from the safe lane and just put the Lycan into the jungle. He has the Vlads already, I believe. That's the completed Vlads, right? Is he missing anything?
He's
Morbid Mask.
Yeah, that's it. Just the mask.
So
always got to remember the new
gold.
recipe. with the headdress in there, it always feels a little weird.
It got a little bit more expensive, but of course affects ranged heroes too now, which is kind of nice for a hero like Storm, to be honest. He's one of the ranged heroes that a lot of people often think of Storm as like a magic damage dealer, and of course Overload and Ball Lightning is a lot of magic damage, but he is very much based off attacking all the time. That's what triggers the Overloads in the first place. So that 10% lifesteal can very possibly make a difference in a couple of fights.
I like how CTY is also backing up. So Ehome supports are going to find their levels, and they're so critical too. When you got a Rubik who wants to have level 6, there's so many good things to steal. And then also Ancient Apparition for the Ice Blast, required to give them that extra advantage during the fights. So the timing is right to put the supports there, but at the same time, Cdeck now try and find these easier kills, which are just sitting on the lanes, which are the under-leveled supports.
Yeah. That's another good thing about the Storm leaving, or not a good thing about him leaving the lane, but about him being in the jungle, is that they can't really gank him. So if they would have found him, that wouldn't have happened. DDC, however, should be an easy kill.
Yeah.
Nice Shadow Raise. Emphasis on the Shadow. But it was there. Oh, Fissure.
Yeah.
Sick.
It arrived. It arrived eventually. Yeah, but it was the Fissure start up to the charge, and then one Shadow Raise to find the kill. That's what ended up happening.
That's not really that good of a smoke, though. I can understand. I mean, it's
Especially if they lose out
right?
like this.
Oh,
CTY
nice
jumping down. The Fissure's not going to connect him, so CTY already taking out the Witch Doctor. But the rest of Cdeck was able to retreat back out. So yeah, you're right. They commit a smoke, but you only get one
super
kill.
Cool.
Man.
This is like some Dragon Ball Z to your shit.
He can't handle that much electricity.
Oh, no, it fixed itself. I would have loved for him to bug out and look like that the rest of the game. That was super cool. It's basically Ball Lightning, but just not moving with the ult. That's cool. So anyway, the reason that smoke is not that impactful is that, obviously, first of all, they find a support. That was, I think, level 4. And they use a 12-minute smoke cooldown on it. And they're not finding cores in the meantime, right? They're kind of desperate for just getting any sort of meaningful use out of their supports early, since the rotations from Shaker didn't really pay off. The Witch Doctor didn't shut down the Clockwork that well. So they have to take what they can get, and it's better than nothing. But then they trade. So at the end of the day, they use the smoke to trade 2 supports for each other, while the Lycan and Storm are free farming, and one of them got a kill. I don't feel like that's good enough for Cdeck.
It's not going to be good enough, too, when this smoke is used to get them into Roshan. That's what Ehome backed up for. They picked up the Vladimirs, they got the smokers, so we had Scriff showing us on the camera, too. But the Observer Ward's around, so they know that Lanham is in the neighborhood, but like, even at this point, it doesn't look like Cdeck has any intention of trying to contest them. They're just enjoying the farm in their lanes more than anything else. And maybe some damage into the towers.
Well, they just don't know, right? They don't know.
Well, they only know the Rubik's hovering around there. They don't know Roshan, like Lycan's in there. But you're missing everyone from the top lane. It has to start to flag.
It's very scary to try to go in there. Spirit Breaker just got level 6, but wasn't before. You're crossing the river against Clockwork and Storm, like ridiculously good catch. Rubik even has catch with the lift. And, well, I don't even know if they could win the fight. I think Omnislash was like the key ability they could win it with, perhaps. But if that bounces to the Wolves a little bit or something like that, the fight's probably a loss. So.
Yeah. Because you need to get the kill instantly, because Juggernaut did go for that Mask of Madness build with the phase bit. So he doesn't have that same survivability as you have with the drums.
With how the early game went, I think it's the right call. If they would have had a better start and they could have looked to push some towers, maybe he could have tried to go for a drum build, but he needs to farm, because this early game for Cdeck is not going to result in multiple towers pushed down. If anything, they're probably more on the receiving end against this Lycan, who is doing very well, got the Aegis. Storm can create all the space in the world by just jumping around, since, as we talked about, they didn't really counterpick him that much. They were planning for a timing push. It's not going to happen. CTY will, at any point in time, be able to kill Witch Doctor, or Shaker, or Shadow Fiend on his own.
Yep.
So, if he finds any of those,
Well,
it's looking pretty good.
He's found the Jugger. RTK is going to hook shot in. That means there's no spin. The Ice Blast is on the way. And he's still do a little bit more damage into aggressive. That healing ward's obviously not going to help him when he's affected by Ice Blast. And Storm in deep into the Omni Slash. And Storm's got enough mana ball lining himself away as RTK getting charged. CTY, enough mana to jump up high. He has that. He still had the Aegis the Immortal, which means he's just leaving RTK to die behind the Tier 1 tower. They tried to force it. They at least brought all 5 players in from Cdeck, but that's all.
Yeah, that was a good rotation, or a good Fisher from Shaker. I think CTY also a little impatient there, perhaps, because ideally you want to, or RTK rather with a hook shot, ideally you want to wait until the AA Ice Blast is there, so they get the impact damage from it. They only got the I can't remember what it's
the
called.
Ice Blast came after.
The passive effect. What's that called?
Chill?
No.
Not chilling.
Frostburn?
Frostbite?
That's called. Yeah, it's called Frostbitten. Yeah,
Frostbitten.
So it is actually called like Frostbite, like Crystal Maiden's ability, but
Brother and sister?
yeah. So he didn't get Frostbitten, or he got Frostbitten but didn't take the impact damage, and obviously they couldn't get him into Shatter range. Wow, what an ability! It's got like 3 words to it, but and the description of it's like one of the longest in Dota. If you're new to the game, you're like, what does my ult do? Well,
Let me just read this essay.
oh, okay.
Terrific.
So dependent on your angle and your distance, it will form a sphere with a radius of x. And then
See, if anyone ever said that algebra wasn't required to actually have real world properties, like this is it, man. Dota 2, obviously, then classing as real world.
Well, they got the tower, they got the Witch Doctor kill, super easy kill for CTY. I only saw the corpse on the ground, and at first I thought it was a courier, but it was Witch Doctor. So he's probably a little bit disappointed with that. He would have liked the courier kill more, I guess. It's worth more gold, Nick. It's global gold for the team, but regardless, oh man, they get to steal this stack too. This is something Cdeck actually really can't allow to let happen. They need the Juggernaut to get his, and well, this is not.
What a huge thing as
boy.
well for YJ, because you've now got the Lycan who is building his Necro book, as you were saying. So Ehome, you've taken out all the Tier 1 towers, and you've got your level 1 book up for Lycan 13 minutes into the game, on top of the Vlads and on top of the Aegis Immortal you still have for another 2 minutes. Ehome just seems so like far superior in any kind of fight at the moment.
Yeah,
Which is kind of crazy when you think about it, like heroes like Earthshaker and such.
So I think Shiki wants to go for mech generally, but he might just be scared to get it against an AA. I think you can't let Ice Blast intimidate you that much. Like if
Is he worried about Ice Blast, or is he also worried about like Clockwork Hook in? It could be that early Orchid on the Storm, because you've got a Storm with momentum.
I think Storm can solo him anyway. Like if he Yules, he's just gonna die when he falls down. It's not particularly good against Clockwork. You delay it a little bit, but you're still going to be stuck in the cogs, or afterwards you just got a battery assaulting Clockwork next to you. I think for both purposes, mech is better. And if he wanted to escape Clock, he could have gone to Force Staff, but that's not really a first item on Shadow Fiend. So I want to say he's not getting the mech because of Ice Blast. And if that's the reasoning, I think it's a wrong call, because there's going to be other things in this team fight that they need to deal with. There's a lot of AoE damage, Rocket Flare, Fade Bolt, all the static remnants from Storm Spirit, and even Lycan is just going to deal really good split damage if he wants to with all his minions. So they can really force them down now. I don't think Cdeck have teamfight potential without this mech. And when it comes to Ice Blast, it generally doesn't hit 5 heroes, right? But if it does, you wait out and then you use it afterwards, or if you get hit 2 heroes, maybe you can mech up the other 3 if they're in a dangerous position.
Waiting might be a little bit more difficult though. That if you look at the Ancient Apparition, he's got himself the point booster already. He's rushing directly into the Aghanim Scepter, so you're gonna have a lot more problems with its Ice Blast.
Yes.
Even if it's only gonna hit just 1 or 2 heroes, they're out of the fight once they're connected on. And if it's the Witch Doctor, I don't know if you'll die directly from it, but if there's any other level of chip damage, what 800 life to deal with an Aghanim Blast, which will probably be at 2 once he's got the Ags.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be a problem. I've got this feeling though that to me this is just this type of game where Storm's just gonna own. I don't know what Cdeck can really do anymore in this game, and I know it's early to call it at 15 minutes, but they've missed their timing window entirely. They didn't even get the bottom tier 1. They were close, but I think the glyph held it. And then 15 minutes in, no towers taken, no map control, no counters to a Storm who's ultra farmed. He's got Bloodstone Treads, Wand, Bottle, minute 15 with 90 CS.
Well, this is their chance.
Well,
They're
they
going
can
to try
try
and
it.
charge in. You got the Nether Strike available. They can bump CTY back, and he got the extra bash too. And then with the Yules into that ultimate, will be enough for the Requiem? No, it won't. The Ice Blast. Rubik got the telekinesis grab, which stopped it all. They're losing 2. They'll probably lose 3 with a jump up north. Actually, CTY, there's not enough mana for the jump, but you've just got the Witch Doctor. You just got the SF.
But we got a glimpse of perhaps the reasoning why he wanted to get the Yules. On second thought, with this
initiation,
situation,
blow up.
it actually makes a lot more sense. It's still super situational against the Storm, but it's a way of dealing with him, so they can try to burst him down with Yule's Requiem, because as we talked about, their actual counters to Storm are Fissure, and Cask is garbage against him. So you've got Fissure, and Charge can be okay, and sometimes you can get Nether Strike off, but that's assuming Ehome don't get a counterplay like the hookshot we saw there, a lift. Yeah, those are basically the things they have to play around with between their...
It might have been a little bit easier if you didn't have the Juggernaut, you had someone else which had some level of silence. I'm not saying silencer,
Exactly,
but
yeah.
like someone who's got some control over their Storm Spirit, because you're right with like I know you're talking about this during the drafting phase even, with the Storm Spirit, like you've been seeing Bloodstone builds more than anything else, and sometimes the Orchid, but the BKB is not something you think up very early on. There's no Skywrath mages being played in this qualifier, or not many of them, so you're pretty free to do whatever the hell you want. So you need some better level of control on this Storm Spirit, or he'll just wreck.
It's just that what Cdeck picked, I think they willingly gave Storm a pretty good game. I don't think they got caught by surprise by it much, or were like, oh, we don't know how to deal with it with the remaining heroes in the pool. They just had a different game plan that didn't happen. And at this point, you got to go to plan Bs. That's why the Yules is actually a decent choice to buy time against the Storm. If you can get a Requiem, that's awesome. Of course, they tried it there. They were really close. I believe it was the hook shot that did save the Storm Spirit of CTY there. It's a little hard to call when there's this lag on the abilities, but
it's
it
difficult
did
to see
seem like a
the
hook
small
shot.
precision moments. Is that a Battle Fury Juggernaut?
Yeah. I agree with this build. If they can't play the early push, he's got to get rich.
But how do you get rich when the Storm Spirit's hunting your jungle?
You try. You try to farm with the most efficient farming items you can get. So, Mask of Madness Battle Fury is probably the quickest ramp-up build for... Oh, my.
Oh, there's the smoke. They were actually looking to throw out the fissure, but the Storm Spirit just ball lightnings away. Well, he did actually throw out the fissure.
Yeah, they saw their smoke break, so they thought it was from up there, but Invis there on CTY, giving a lot of information. It's a pretty quiet game in terms of kills. I have this feeling Ehome are gaining 500 GPM more than Cdeck though. Like, it's is that about 500? It's pretty close. It's actually really close.
You take 20 minutes to get 10. Well, actually, that's only like 7.5. That's experience, but you hit like 10k.
They had 10k gold, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, you're right. It's actually 500.
It's 500 GPM across the team, and
wow, how much you instantly regret this. Necro units level 3 are up. Clockwork hook shots down. He's managed to find out Shiki back on the tower, and Witch Doctor, the Death Ward is down, but the damage looks to be very, very minimal at the moment. The Juggernaut will get the Omni Slash off, chasing after Lanham. Actually, that's Lanham spinning in the trees. The Rubik stealing the spin. It's a 1-for-1 trade-off, and aggressive. He'll end up dropping down. CTY is still up and running, and they're going to bring down the Earthshaker. That was one remaining Echo Slam, which looked to pop off. But the Tier 2 tower is forfeit. You lost the Clockwork, the Lycan's still up, the Necro units were in the middle of that fight, and Cdeck fighting outside their base without prep.
now it's about a 2k gain for Ehome with the tower, and a Roche, I think.
They got so many other ways now to initiate. They got a Rubik with a Blink Dagger as well. Like, Cdeck can start getting picked off across the map, which means going high ground for Ehome is even easier. Like, you get that one pick off, trigger the level 3 Necro books, Lycan goes into dog form, and you take Tier 3.
This is that type of game where you look at the kill score and you're like, they're not that far ahead. But they're really far ahead.
It's very deceiving, that kill score.
It's like you see a lot of these games where, oh, a team got a couple of early kills and then they're trading farm and we're 3 and 8 and maybe in 10 minutes we're like 4 and 10 because both teams are just content to farm and feel like they have the strategic advantage. This is a very one-sided game. Ehome have controlled everything. They've got all the towers. Yeah, they've got all the outer towers apart from the top tier 2. They've got 2 Roshans. They farmed more on, I think, 2 out of 3 cores than the Radiant have. And yeah, what are you going to do?
Just look at the bottom 3 networks. Like the Ancient Apparition, who was the lowest for Ehome, is still higher than the Spirit Breaker. And the Earthshaker, who was the one that, like Draskell was mentioning, is the control factor up against the Storm. Like, they needed him to get farm, get that Blink Dagger up, so you can jump, Echo Slam, instant lockdown the Storm Spirit, and then follow up with your other 2 stuns. And it's just that factor which doesn't exist in this game for Cdeck. And the Juggernaut's not going to give that. They even took away the stun which he has when he goes for the first hit of the Omni Slash. So there's not even that level of control. The Spirit Breaker is your only other one, but as we saw with Spirit Breaker, he ran on the Lycan previously, and then has no mana for Nether Strike, because the Necro units trigger, so he gets the charge off, but then all the mana just disappears.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think Ehome can actually just go high ground, and they're going to go for it now. They use Howl, they force the Glyph. Oh, wow.
He blinks straight in. He wants the SF, and CTY is going to combo with him. The Yule Scepter will be there, but the Ice Blast already connected, so this should be the SF dying as he retreats back out again, but we'll go bit by bit. Spirit Breaker is very, very low. The Ice Blast... Wait, okay, that was from before, so it's not coming in again. But CTY is going in deep, and it looks like it's about to be GG right now because they are just ripping apart the mid. And at really, what cost? Ehome have lost absolutely nothing. The Tier 3 tower is almost gone. They will take mid-racks, and the creep wave's already pushing in through bottom, so they can go for that as well. And
CTY just farmed an Orchid in 7 minutes. He got Bloodstone minute 15, so... It's taken him 7 minutes to get this Orchid. That's a GPM of about 600 for that item.
They go for, again, like Lanham, like, okay. I thought he was going for the telekinesis grab on aggressive.
They're showing some respect for their opponents here. They're going back after taking the racks and getting 2 kills.
You don't want to be too defensive, though.
I feel like they could, well, why not, actually?
What
could happen?
Yeah, true. Like the Aegis has only gone through like what? That was like 1-2 minutes. They took the Aegis thing, instantly went down mid.
Yeah,
so you can already use it to go a second time.
Yeah, they could go reset and go. That's if the Aegis was about to expire and they wanted to use it in a fight, I would agree. But they have time to reset.
How much does the timer actually on the Aegis left? It's got to be.
I think they've got like 3.
They're only 2 minutes into it, so yeah, they got tons of time.
They took Roche and went straight down mid, and they didn't lose their Aegis to get a lane racks. So Orchid, another 1,500 gold. So he could just buy a plate mail now as well if he wants to build in for Shivas, or he could, of course, also just hold on to his gold if he wants to build in
even a casual plate mail would be nice.
It's pretty good. I think he's going to get it. He's going to sell his wand here. No, never mind. Running a little bit around in circles, but yeah, there's the... This is the patented "we're screwed" smoke.
So use aggressive. Then again, aggressive's position is on bait where Cdeck is. So they can move up, but the attack's coming on the wrong lane. Like if the attack was coming on bottom lane and then they're going to jump, then Cdeck's in the right spot. But all of Ehome has just gone north because they want to finish that Tier 2 tower off.
Yeah, and they'll get it for free. Cdeck can't even TP in on time when they realize this is happening. Storm is pushing top, and
maybe they're just trying to get a little bit more farm on the SF. Like is he like so close to a BKB or something? Or yeah, actually that was it. So actually smoked out to go out to the jungle to find that last bit of farm for the Shadow Fiend.
Well, they're going to get a tower as well, so... Well, yeah, they will get it. But they got to get back really fast. Actually, just staying around for this tower with Juggernaut is going to... He might be too late. They have no glyph.
Lanham's just gone in as like the front man.
This lane is gone.
Yep.
All right, well, they got a Tier 1 for it.
Well, they might still try and fight. They're coming in close, and Lanham straight over. Picks up the Spirit Breaker, but the SF going at the Requiem. The hook shot will cancel that off. Even through the BKB, it's still going to stun you up. And the Cogs, well, it won't push it back, but he's going to be fine. He is just like, okay, that
guy... He's got 6 Aghanim Scepters. He just keeps going.
So many classes of Disco Omni.
All right, I got a spoiler for you.
Okay, spoil it.
No, I'm lagging on this computer as well. Ehome's going to win this fight.
I'm fairly certain you're right. Like, I'm almost 100% positive you're right.
All right, Rubik has... oh, nice, double spin. Okay.
Okay, so they lost the SF, they lost... Okay, they're all dead. GG. Game was good. Game was golden. Game was made in a perfect world.
I mean, on the bright side,
Yeah.
it was pretty easy to predict how that fight was going to turn out. If this was like a nail-biter fight, that would have sucked.
Yeah.
But,
Well, like when you have the Rubik jump in, he instantly grabs the SB. It's like, well, okay, there goes my one control, and then the SF gets like Requiem of Souls cancelled. There goes your other major team fight. That goes out the window. Nothing was going to go right after that point. Guys, what was your detailed, real-time thoughts of that game?
I thought the Shaker first pick was not very good at the end of the day, right? So at the beginning of the game, I believe they actually sent Q top lane to try to just, I don't know what, like help out the Spirit Breaker a little bit, maybe contest the top rune. It ended up just giving ROTK the lane of his life. He was level 6 when the Spirit Breaker was level 3. So you already have a situation where your off lane is getting way more than the opponents. And just based on that, they first blooded mid. Shiki died. CTY got credit for the first blood. That lane's just like an instant loss. Like, how do you recover that other than like maybe spamming charge on the mid laner, which is not going to really be that effective with just a Shaker gank. So they had no way of shutting down the Storm in the middle lane. And they got, what, like a 9-10 minute smoke into Roche and got that as well.
Yep. And it wasn't just that Clockwork did better than the offlane Spirit Breaker. The Jug wasn't. His farm was being contested. He had like 25 CS to the Lycan's 40 in the early game or something. And all the lanes were just going as well as you could hope for Ehome. I mean, your Clockwork's not going to win the offlane, but as far as what he was up against, that to me is a win in Ehome's book, and that was just perfect play from him. I think you guys talked a bit about the Shadow Fiend not going for the mech, going for the Yules. It really felt like Cdeck had that was their plan B. They never had a way to get that 5-man death ball going, start taking towers. Shadow Fiend said, we lost the early game. There's no point going for a mech because even with a mech, we're not going to be able to take towers. And it just felt like Cdeck just didn't really have a solid backup plan when that early game fell apart.
It's kind of crazy to think like they've gone through the entire competition was saying like Cdeck was the most stable team in all of China, and this is the first game they lose when it matters the most.
Yeah, that was a pretty crushing loss, actually. I never thought after like the first 10 minutes that they had a real way of winning, unless for some reason Ehome just like went YOLO and dove their base or something like that.
Yeah.
I think as soon as the first blood on mid, I was just like, well, okay, this Storm's gonna have a great game now. That's pretty much that. They didn't have a good answer. Earthshaker and Witch Doctor against the Storm is not a good support duo. The Earthshaker, until he gets Blink, can't really deal or counter a Storm.
Yeah, the fourth and the fifth picks from Ehome for me kind of sealed the deal. Like after we saw the beginning of the game.
But going back to the draft, what we talked about, that aggressive trialing they could have run, I think would have done a hell of a lot of work compared to what they ended up with. Clockwork got a lot anyway. I arguably they did run dual lanes, so we didn't have the situation with Shaker bottom, but Clock got a hell of a lot. Spirit Breaker got nothing. So if you swap those two heroes and if you swap Spirit Breaker to bottom and you keep Clock there, Spirit Breaker is going to get roughly the same farm as Clock. They're both going to get levels. Then in the top lane, your Juggernaut can actually contest the Lycan in the lane. You have a way of shutting down the supports. You can probably challenge them for pulls as well with a Shaker, Witch Doctor, and a Jugger out there. And you still have the possibility for Shaker to move mid. So I just feel like strategically their lanes actually made no sense. The Witch Doctor accomplished nothing in this game. Neither did Shaker. So if you're running two supports like that are level dependent and they get nothing done in 10 minutes, and the enemy team have Rubik A.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't very close, to be honest. Like, even though the game took, 23, 24 minutes, somewhere around there, it just was over well before that point.
It felt like there were too many places Shaker needed to be as well. Like, he needed to be mid to prevent that smoke gank with a counter fissure. He needed to be bottom lane to zone out and get kills on RTK's Clockwork. There was just too much pressure on Garda to be in the exact right place at every given moment to deal with Ehome's movements and just what they were doing on the map. Although, I feel like, as you can mention, what's he doing in the off lane? Like, there's no point being in the top lane, like with the Spirit Breaker.
Yeah, even if he camped mid, though, I still feel like Ehome would have had the advantage, like without a doubt. Because, I mean, their Rubik hit 6 relatively early as well, and we talked about how that can impact just even trying to end the game. Like, at 15 minutes, Cdeck didn't kill a tower. Like, what? How are you supposed to end the game against an AA when you don't even go for mech build on the Shadow Fiend? He went for, like, the Yule's play to try to kill CTY, but by then he already had, like, a soul booster, so even that combo was kind of sketchy if it was even going to kill him. I don't know. It was a really tough game.
Well, let's put this one behind us. In the meantime, we'll have ourselves a break. We'll attach a piece of wire between our servers as well as Perfect World, and we'll see if we can come back here for game number 2.